Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. This is Mike, and this is Mike Dell's World podcast. And today is August 25th, 2018. Haven't been doing a lot of these things. I guess the last one was what? Episode 306 was the last one on July 3rd. Wow, the summer has just flown by. Everything is still perking along just fine. Got the roof done on the house. Still working on the basement/studio. I know I've said that for almost a year now, but the end is near. So hopefully we'll have that done, and I'll be able to move back and use my other microphones and my new stand-up desk and all that. But anyway. Just thought I would jump on here and do a little episode since I hadn't done one in a long time, and it's a nice Saturday morning, kind of a lazy, rainy day, which is the first time we've had rain in probably 3 weeks. Something like that. Really needed it, and had a nice thunderstorm. Woke me up about 6 o'clock this morning, and I went out and checked the rain gauge. I had about 1.25 inches of rain so far. And it looks like it's going to continue to rain a little bit on and off all day, which, like I said, we need it desperately here. All the grass was brown, and I'm sure the farmers are liking it too. Actually, right now I'm looking at the radar. It doesn't look like it's going to rain too much in the really close near future, but, it's what it is. We got that big lake. Lake Michigan. It's a big lake, right? Anyway, we got that big lake over there that kind of sucks all the energy out of thunderstorms most of the time. Now, this time of year is when the lake warms up the most. In fact, September is usually when the lake is the warmest, and we can usually get some pretty nasty storms off the lake. But right now, it's not too bad. Let's see. Oh, hey, went to Philadelphia towards the end of July there, so that's about a month ago. And I have to say, every time I go to a big city, I come back appreciating what we have here in northern Michigan. Up here, we do have our crowds. Around the last episode, it was right during Cherry Festival up here, and that's when the traffic jams and the tourists and all that happen around here. But like I said, it's a short 10 days or so, and then it kind of mellows for a bit, and then we have the film festival, and that gets a little busy, but not nearly what the Cherry Festival does. And then that calms down, and we get into the dog days of August, and really it's just normal ops here. Did take a trip up to the Upper Peninsula, which said it's like coming from a big city to here, by going from here to anywhere in the UP. We stayed for the first couple of days there near Sugar Island on the Sioux side of the river. Kathy did go over to the Music Fest. I did not this year. I stayed with the RV and the dogs. So dog sitting, and she went out visiting and whatnot, and then she went home, and I went on to Lake Superior, the shore of Lake Superior. That was a lot of fun. Got to hang out with my folks for a couple of days, and did a lot of touring around along the shoreline of Lake Superior, and that was a lot of fun. Got back on a Thursday and got settled back into work and all that good stuff. It's been pretty easy going summer as far as that goes. Did get the house touched up as far as paint. Finally, painted it a couple years ago, and then parts of it were not prepped right, I guess, and so it started flaking a little. And anyway, got that all cleaned up, and the house looks good on the outside, and working on the inside a little bit. Gonna finish the basement and the kitchen. I got the roof done. I don't know if I mentioned that. I don't know if I had the roof done last time we talked here on this podcast, but got that all done. That was quite the experience. The crew came in about 7 o'clock in the morning and started tearing it apart. And by 5:30 at night, they were finishing cleaning up and ready to leave. I would have thought that would have been at least a 2-day job. They had 2 layers of cedar shakes to take off, and then they resheeted the roof, so they put all new plywood up there, and then put the ice shields, put 2 layers of ice shield on instead of just one. That's normal. And then reshingled the whole thing, and like I said, had it all done and cleaned up that quick. And all those cedar shakes, there was 2 complete layers of them, so it was like 4 or 5 great big trailer loads of stuff that they hauled out of here. It was really quite something to see them work. Got it all done and not leaking. It wasn't leaking before, and now that I see how it was put together, it wouldn't have leaked anyway. We're kind of in a unique situation in this log cabin. The boards that I see when I look straight up here, I'm in the living room part of the house where my temporary office is and temporary studio, and the boards I see are like knotty pine. Well, those boards are on the outside too. There's no insulation on top of those boards, but I didn't realize there was insulation on top. What had happened, or what they had done is, originally they just had these boards, and then they had asphalt shingles. And then somebody a little bit later they put like a 2x4 around the outside of it, and then they put in about 3.5 inches of styrofoam insulation, and then they nailed the cedar shakes right to the styrofoam insulation, and then they nailed more cedar shakes over top of that. So there was no sheeting over the insulation. So the shingles were nailed right to it, which is kind of weird, I thought. But anyway, they stripped off the shingles, left the insulation. Insulation was in incredibly good shape, and also the roof under the insulation was in good shape. So they didn't have to do anything there, but they went ahead and put plywood or OSB over the insulation, and boxed it in. So there's actually about a 3.5-inch box of air with the styrofoam in it, and then on top of that they put another shingle roof. So it really looks nice. It has good insulation for a vaulted ceiling like this, and I'm really happy with it. So that's good. I know, boring, but good. Well, I don't know about boring, but I think it's interesting that this old house was put together that way on the roof, but it's a lot better than what it was. I actually had trees growing out of the roof. We had little saplings and stuff in the valleys of the roof growing up, and had really thick moss and everything. We're in the woods here, so stuff kind of grows like that, moss and whatnot. Which reminds me, I need to go out and get on the garage roof and sweep off all the debris that's up there before winter, so that things don't stick. Because we did that roof, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, but still new as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Vehicle department. Always got to talk about vehicles, since I always drive old vehicles for the most part. Had this old truck. I still have this old truck. It's sitting 10 feet from me over on the side here of the house. And, I started working on it, fixing it up a little bit. That was going to be my winter beater. It might still, and I'll tell you the story. It's a 2000 Ford Ranger, 4-wheel drive. Nice, not the greatest little thing. It had 200 and something thousand miles on it, and the exhaust was completely fallen off of it. I mean, the cross pipe was rusted, the where it hooks to the manifold was broke off. The muffler was just sort of dangling there, not really connected to anything. And the only part of it that was any good was one lead pipe with the catalytic converter on it, and everything else was just sort of dangling or fell off. Well, I said, all right, well, I'll take it over to the shop and have them put a muffler or put a exhaust system on it. So I had an outfit over here that just does that, and they make their own pipe, so they bend it, so it doesn't cost like if you bought all the factory stuff. And put a couple $100, $300, I think it was, for this exhaust system, so the truck sounds like brand new because it's brand new exhaust. And I thought that was great. I got so I started driving it a little bit, and I drove it out to the next town over, Interlaken, for breakfast one day, and driving back, I noticed the brake pedal's getting squishy. Oh, that's weird. And by the time I got home, the brake pedal was going all the way to the floor, and it was barely stopping. Oh, geez, it sprung a leak somewhere. So sure enough, I'd blown a front hose on the front, one of the front calipers, blew a hose. So, okay, no big deal. I took it over to the shop, but I said, well, I don't feel like messing with it. Here, put some hoses on it. It probably needs some lines, whatever. Just, get it done. He calls me back up with a $1,200 quote. I'm like, $1,200? That truck's not worth $1,200, so I'm not going to pay for that. So, but what it needs is all the all the brake lines. It needs both front calipers and rotors, probably wheel bearings, because you got to pull the calipers to put wheel bearings in, or pull it apart, and the wheel bearings part of the deal on these. So I'd probably need new wheel bearings on the front, and it needs wheel cylinders on the back. That's after I got the entire rear brakes done, except for the wheel cylinders. So now I got to get wheel cylinders. I got to get all new brake lines, or have them made, or have somebody make them, or, God forbid, me get under there and do it. So I'm debating what I want to do with it. I know I don't want to spend $1,200 though. That's for sure. So we'll see what happens with the old green truck. It may make its last trip on a flatbed to the junkyard, and I'll go find something else for a winter beater. We'll see. And my old van's still kicking. That's at 230-something thousand miles and starting to get rusty and all that. So I don't know. I'm going to have to do something vehicle-wise before too long. Luckily, I don't have to travel all that much in my own vehicle. Whenever I go down to the Columbus office, I either rent a vehicle or I fly. And so I don't really need to use my own vehicle for that, which is good. And that's how I usually do it if I do any long-distance travel. I just rent cars. They're cheaper and whatever, but I don't know. I'm going to have to get something, that's semi-reliable. The old van isn't unreliable yet. At least, knock on wood, hasn't been. I'd still jump in that and go somewhere if I had to, but it's got some issues, that's for sure. 232,000 miles or whatever it's got on it, it's got issues. Kathy's vehicle's okay. She's got a Toyota Highlander that's relatively low miles, under 200,000 anyway. I think she's got 120 on it or something, but that's nothing for a Toyota. It still looks decent. It's not too rusty. Got a couple little spots here and there, but hey, like I said, what we don't pay in car payments, we can use for other things. And I don't believe in buying brand new vehicles unless you have $1 million in the bank, and I certainly do not have $1 million in the bank just yet. So there you go. Let's see. I guess that's really about it. I just wanted to flip on the mic, do an episode. Work-wise, we're staying real busy over at Raw Voice Blueberry. In fact, I'm looking for a part-time tech support contractor to work with us at Blueberry. So if you are somebody that knows podcasting and knows WordPress specifically, and PowerPress even better, we need somebody that can troubleshoot. And that's kind of a weekend night thing, so after 5 Eastern and, on weekends, pretty much make your own schedule, check tickets, whatever. It's mostly tickets and email. So if you're interested in that, give me a holler. You can get a hold of me over at Blueberry, Mike at blueberry.com. That's BLUBRRY.com for if you're interested in a part-time gig. Let's see. Our sales have been really good over there, so everything's clicking along. Get back to podcast movement. That's what I was doing in Philadelphia. That was a great time, as usual. Of course, Google Podcasts is really taking off, which is good. Somebody needs to come in there and have an alternative to Apple. So many podcasters say, find us on iTunes. First off, Apple doesn't like the word iTunes anymore. They're trying to rebrand to Apple Podcasts. But nonetheless, if you're sitting there on an Android phone or, really can't use Apple. I mean, there's no Apple Podcasts for Android. The iTunes desktop software still works on Windows, but still doesn't help you on Android. So, definitely, now that Google's getting serious about it, they had that Google Play podcast directory, whatever, and that's kind of going away because they've replaced it with Google Podcasts, which is great because it's based on search. So you don't have to submit your show to Google Podcasts. It just sort of is there. And Google Podcasts is built right into the search app on Android. So if someone searches for a podcast in there and they find one, they can hit subscribe. It'll download a little app called Google Podcasts, and voila, you are into podcasting or podcast listening. So, of course, all you guys that are listening know how to listen to podcasts, obviously. But if you're sitting on the website listening to this and you do have an Android phone, click that little red button over to your right there, and it says on Google Podcasts. Click that button and subscribe on your Android phone. Actually, go there on your Android phone, though, and click that red button. Anyway, that'll get you going. Or if you have any other Android app other than Google Podcasts that you've already been listening to podcasts, hit the green button that says on Android. Or, of course, if you're on an iPhone, click the purple button on Apple Podcasts. Or you can hit the Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify now. And, of course, if you know what an RSS feed is, you can click the orange button and do it that way. It's totally up to you how you listen to this show. I don't care how you listen as long as you do. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to work on probably producing a fast food history episode. Working on researching Kentucky Fried Chicken, although I know a lot about it because I've been an aficionado of KFC for a while, a long time ago. Now, not so much lately because I'm losing weight. Actually, speaking of that, I'm down into the 220s from the 250s, so down 20-something pounds and still dropping, heading for 199. That's my goal by February. I am in the Podcasters Weight Loss Challenge along with Dave Jackson and a few other people, and at the Orlando Podfest. We will have the biggest loser weigh-in thing. So trying to get to 199. That's my goal. So wish me luck in that endeavor. So anyway, back to the KFC thing. I'm researching that a bit. Kathy and I, a few years ago, went down to Corbin, Kentucky, to the original Kentucky Fried Chicken area. I mean, it wasn't the exact site because it was across the street. Sanders Cafe was in a hotel. That's where Colonel Sanders came up with that Kentucky Fried Chicken thing and decided to franchise it. And across the street, they did it. They replicated his kitchen. I don't know how much of it's original and how much of it's recreated, but they have his kitchen there that you can kind of walk through, and his model hotel room that he had in the restaurant over at the hotel across the street, so everybody could look and see what the hotel rooms looked like while they were eating their chicken dinners. And it was real interesting to to do that. And then we went and visited Colonel Sanders' grave up in Louisville. There's a big graveyard up there, and Colonel Sanders is buried there with quite the display. I think I have pictures of that. I'm hoping to dig that up and see how if I can find those pictures. But yeah, that was, I don't know how long ago. That was probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I don't know. We were down there. So anyway, going to talk about that in the next episode of Fast Food History over at fastfoodhistory.org or fastfoodhistory.com. Both of them will get you there. And I will catch you later.